We're back, and we're joined by Todd Bensman. He is well, highly regarded as well as now almost universally present authority on one of the most significant challenges we face in protecting the country we love, namely what's been done by the Joe Biden administration to not just open our southern border, but effectively to destroy it. He is a senior national security fellow with an absolutely indispensable group called the Center for Immigration Studies. He's also the author of a very highly regarded best-selling book entitled America's Covert Border War. Todd, it's always good to have you with us. Welcome back to Securing America.
Good to be here.
You've recently written about what is actually behind this move by the Biden administration to eviscerate essentially the last mechanism holding back the onslaught, the invasion from south of the border, across it, and into the heartland of America. It's called Title 42. Um, it was imposed initially for public health reasons. Why is it being eliminated when there are still concerns about public health in the coronavirus moment?
Well, Title 42 has been in the crosshairs of the liberal progressive movement since its inception in March of 2020. It is at the very top of the hierarchy of wants by the migrant advocacy industry. They want that thing down. They want it out of the way. They want it stopped. They have from the very beginning, and they have been relentless. The reason why they have been so relentless to end Title 42 is because Title 42 removes access to the U.S. asylum process. The U.S. asylum process is the key to mass migration events, to stampedes for the border, for one reason, because if you can step foot on U.S. soil and say, I want asylum, it's an off ramp from deportation straight into the United States for resettlement for years and years. It is like this magical elixir, and they want it restored so that everybody who comes to the border can claim it and get right in. Now, the asylum system's initial purpose, I mean, it was created for very noble reasons to, help refuseniks from the Soviet Union or, North Koreans fleeing the Gulag system or, something like that. Vietnamese boat people fleeing communist re-education camps, not for Honduran yam farmers that, had a failed crop or that there's hurricanes. And so uh, Title 42, when it goes away, gets replaced by, guess what? Asylum fraud, mass asylum fraud. Anybody who makes up a story of any kind doesn't have to be verified, you're in.
In and permanently in, and entitled to all manner of social safety net benefits at the largesse of the taxpayer. Um, what is motivating these? I think you've got a great phrase for it. These migrant advocacy industry types, Todd Bensman. Uh, don't they see that our country simply cannot absorb the millions? And in your recent piece, you talked about perhaps getting to the point where we will have, with the surge expected in the aftermath of the removal of Title 42, maybe 540,000 people coming across that border every month, exercising this magic elixir option.
I mean, this is one of the great mysteries of contemporary American political history, I think, is, what is really, really driving this? I mean, I hear theories about, well, they're trying to import Democratic voters. I don't know if I buy that. I really think that it's a theology. It's like a political theology on the far left. It's been around for 20 years that just opposes the idea of borders and, more importantly, opposes the idea of rich and poor. They have this idea that everybody should share all the wealth and anybody can come from poor countries into rich countries, no matter what their race or ethnicity or religion because we're all one big happy multicultural globe. And the globe part, I think, is kind of the key uh, to this ideology or this theology that I call it of multiculturalism and virtuosity, and high moral, uh, uh, impulse. And I think it's like this weird ideology, and it has always been on the fringes of the Democratic Party, rejected, always rejected open borders. But in 2020, they got power, and they got power over the immigration policy, and they did this.
It's now the mainstream, I think it's fair to say, of the Democratic Party, and they do get some help from Republicans too, who see the cheap labor. I think their motivation's pretty clear. I have to say, Todd, mark me down as a cynic, maybe, but it seems to me whether you were ideologically motivated by high-minded purpose or not, you certainly see the advantage of having large numbers of Democrats or people who you think will be Democrat voters coming across that border, changing the electorate. So we'll be monitoring their rationalizations in the future. Talk a little bit about how we used to have a Remain in Mexico policy, and that the upshot of this would be a Remain in America policy. And is this, as a practical matter, irreversible once this is done? And won't it be enshrined ultimately in amnesty for all these people if that's not made unnecessary by the asylum process?
Trump came up with the Remain in Mexico policy, which, like I was explaining before about the asylum system, the game for the asylum system is you claim it and then you wait inside the United States for adjudication. Well, that's a 5 year backlog now. So you're in for 5 years in the US. Most of them are ineligible. Judges rule Guatemalans ineligible by like 95%, Haitians 94%, Hondurans. I mean, nobody gets asylum really, and so they disappear. The point of asylum is to disappear inside America. But Biden, right, and Biden was, I'm sorry, Trump was making them wait in Mexico. So asylum, it means you get to wait under the Democrats, you get to wait in America and disappear. And I mean, you disappear. Especially, we have no deportation anymore. They have abolished ICE. Effectively, it's abolished. So you don't have to worry about about ever being deported.
Yeah, and I'm told that the another gambit that the administration is pursuing, Todd, is that they are having so-called asylum officers in the Department of Homeland Security that will be essentially replacing many of those immigration judges working ostensibly on the backlog. But if those are people who are basically right as well out of this migrant advocacy industry, you're going to wind up seeing, I assume, an awful lot of those people being rubber stamped with asylum and turned loose in the country as well. Is that a concern?
So if nobody sues, and I do expect a lawsuit right away on that, there's a brand new regulation that transfers authority for granting asylum from judges in an adversarial court setting to frontline low level asylum officers. They can stamp it on the spot and legalize people with asylum, put them on a path to citizenship right away. It's a recipe for rubber stamping everybody who comes to the border with a permanent fix to the illegal immigration problem. No longer will people coming across the border be illegal; they'll be legalized right away. This is an alarming development.
And as you've been so clear about, Todd, all of these things are tractor beams for people wanting to do something different, whether they want to come here for a better life and all of the economic benefits, or whether they want to come here to kill us, for that matter. Knowing that it's going to be easier and easier and easier to get here and to be allowed to stay here has got to be, a tremendous incentive for that surge that you're forecasting. Let me ask you about what we do about this, Todd. One of the things that I know you've been very focused on, living in Texas as you have, having worked in the past on the law enforcement side in the Department of Public Safety down there, you appreciate what your governor, Greg Abbott, has been doing lately to create some leverage, not just on, well, the Mexicans for one, but on the Biden administration for another. Talk a little bit about what the governor has done and the effect it seems to be having.
It's really interesting. This is probably one of the most innovative things I've seen come out of any state border state. What he's doing is he's got his state police running safety checks on every single truck coming out of Mexico, and these are the busiest land ports of entry in America for truck. And he's shut down all of these land ports. He's closed down trade with Mexico with like three DPS troopers at a at a bridge. And he doesn't want to stop trade. He doesn't want to do that. But what he did do is he's leveraged that into bringing Mexican governors to a negotiating table to cut deals. We make the bridges work. You catch the migrants on your side and do something with them. And so far, he's got three agreements in a week. It took a 1 week of bridge slowdowns we'll pull off the bridges, and you guys go do your thing with the illegal immigrants on your side. Now, I think that's really
It's fantastic. Todd, I think we are just about out of time, and I wanted to leave just a moment to say thank you for the work that you do. America's Covert Border Wars is the definitive discussion of the piece of this that we were discussing a little bit earlier with Robert Spencer, the jihadi phenomenon at the border.